You got me there.
Still no, still.
Yeah.
You see my...
Yeah.
Yeah, then we'll.
Does anybody else see it?
No, I think this is there's something goofy. Like you might actually have to exit it and then come back in. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe let me. I'll disconnect and come back. Or actually, no.
Yeah.
I stopped sharing.
Oh, yeah. You're close.
And I reshare my tab.
Same situation.
Okay. I see it actually.
Oh, now we got it. Now we got it.
Yeah.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, maybe then why not start recording and start our little meeting? Huh? I think anybody that comes a little bit later can watch whatever he missed.
Streaming should be on.
Streaming should be on. Oh, okay. Welcome. Excellent. Welcome to our little Friday week 4 DAO Pioneer Learning Circle session. Happy that you all have showed up again, even if it's like beginning of your weekend mostly, or maybe you're still in your job. So really happy that you are showing up here, showing interest still after 4 weeks of intensive DAO work and collective learning. Again, I always have to say it. I'm super impressed with how all of you participate, how all of you are taking part in what is happening here, and it's a great experience for me, definitely. I also hope for you and for the people that take part in this group, and really lovely to see what happened, and really happy to also get some positive feedback, and everybody seems to have learned a little bit in the last couple of weeks about DAOs, and this is actually was the main goal of our little idea here. This meeting is recorded, and this meeting is also live streamed. So just for everybody of you to know and to understand, and we just take your agreement that you are okay with this. It's on our YouTube channel, in the DAO Pioneer channel, and the link is posted in the channel already. So also you can follow it on YouTube. Today, our little agenda. A little welcome we got already, and maybe a short recap of what happened during the week. Then we will, again, like all Fridays, go a bit through our weekly learning document and just highlight the key findings, let's say it like this, that we covered during the week. And then we have a little bit, let's say, special guest, but we are very happy that we have a guest here today, and this is Biyan Mienert. He is a lawyer at the IOTA Foundation, and he's extremely knowledgeable in DAOs, and especially in the legal side of DAOs. And this is also why we used this week as making it a big topic, actually, to shine some light on the complex legal issues that surround blockchain in general and DAO organizations in special. And Biyan will tell us a little bit about himself, and especially about the article that he has been published about DAOs. And then he will be also open to, we're going to chat a little bit about legal stuff, and he going to answer some questions, maybe as good as he can. And just to make sure, Biyan is not doing any legal counseling here or giving legal advice or something. He's just offering some of his experiences that has come along his way over the last couple of years, where he has been part of organizations and legal issues for DAOs all over the world. And then again, we go for a little feedback and question and answer round, and have an outlook on actually session 5, not session 4, as I state here. Everybody with me so far? All good?
All good.
All good.
Yeah. And as you know it, I'm always happy if we can, in between, come into a little discussion. So if you have some questions, you want to add some things to the things that I'm saying, just speak up. Yeah. Always happy to give you some room to express your ideas. Again, this is actually what we are doing here. These are our goals for this whole now week 4 DAO Pioneer Learning Circle. Yeah, we want to enable a DAO culture in the IOTA ecosystem and in the IOTA community. We want to elevate the community to gain. Okay, yeah, so we want to elevate our community to gain knowledge about DAOs, and our goal would also to be to kickstart a couple or a few or some DAOs, some initiatives, some community-driven organizations in our ecosystem that could maybe really evolve out of this 5 weeks learning circle that we are doing here together with you. This has been actually our outline for the week. So these are the things that we already have covered in our daily sessions over the week. We did a couple of deep dives, a bit more into detail what certain DAOs do. And for me personally, really Bankless is, I think, a prime example of a great working DAO. And also Aave Grants DAO is a super nice thing. Friends with Benefits, it's something special, but we will talk about it shortly later. And then we did cover and started to explore the legal regulation side around DAOs worldwide, a little bit focused on US, and these are because they are the main legal setups and structures available in the moment. And so that was our plan for the week, and I think we covered it pretty good. So now I will actually change my window that I'm showing you and gonna move over into our session 4 document. I hope. Please tell me if your screen has changed and you see the Google Doc. Excellent. The Google Doc this week got pretty long. Actually, I figured out. I don't know how did you. Was it okay still this week that you could come along with the content, or was it again too overwhelming? I mean, we also.
It was. This was better, easier to manage for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we also overwhelmed you with a lot of other interesting things happening in IOTA, so maybe you couldn't focus so much. I have to talk with comms. Next time they shouldn't disturb our course with all these announcements. Okay, let's go a little bit through our document just as a recap, and for those of you that didn't have the chance to follow our daily meetings, which we always had 2 meetings every day for the European group and for the American Asian group, where we actually try to cover most of the things here. What I maybe just wanted to highlight again, because also we will want to give Biyan a little bit time to talk about the legal things, is Bankless DAO, which, like I said, it's in my opinion a very great general idea of what DAOs can achieve. It's like kind of a prime example of a well-structured DAO and a well-structured community building around the DAO, and a DAO with a clear purpose. Yeah. Bankless DAO is a self-sustaining media company. Yeah, it kind of started with only a crypto newsletter, or actually a DeFi newsletter, and then they created a podcast. Then they created a design studio, and they created more and more stuff, and they created more and more content for, especially for the crypto space and especially for DeFi protocols. And they have actually accelerated themselves into a really profitable and well-working blockchain company. This is what a DAO in the purest thing is, which is excellently organized in little teams, in little structuring guilds, what they call it. It has an oversight and an overview, but the separate guilds are very, very free and flexible in how they organize themselves, in what they are doing with available fundings, what work they offer, what service they offer to the world, and how they charge it. And it's very fluid, everything. You can hop in from one guild to the other. You can always, as a member of Bankless DAO, work in several guilds. You can pick 1, 2, 3 weeks a project here and then there, and it's a very, very great way of doing this. Also, they have a really, really active Discord and a very excellent onboarding system for their DAO, where they really lead you with little videos and with little reviews of things, always deeper, and from stage to stage you will be guided into exploring what this DAO and what this company is about. They have a nice manifesto and things. They figure everything around seasonal plans. It's like it's a seasonal schedule, a seasonal budget for 3 months, where general available funding for those guilds will be fixed from the, let's say, the oversighting committee, and from all guilds together they decide, and they look in the budget, what did they use in the 3 months before, and what are the projects and outlooks. So it's really like organized like a little company, but as always, all the decisions gonna happen with votes, yeah, depending on Bankless is a kind of very pure token-based voting thing. They have their own token bank, which they use to make governance decisions, and also they mostly require to get paid in their token for all the services they provide for other projects. And so they created a nice little economy around their token. They consist of 13 guilds, and these are, like they say, talent pools, and they represent different competencies available for other members of the DAO to join or to tap into. Yeah, and they have writers, they have developers guild, they have an analytics guild, they have a design, they have a legal guild, all things that other projects might need. You can go to them and you can say, hey, I need 2-month Twitter campaign to boost my project, and they will create the content around it. They will create a brand for your project. They will create design. They write articles. They produce little videos, little graphics, and they even will take over your Twitter account and do all the things for you. Yeah, if you pay for their service, and they're gonna share the profits out of this project in with the whole DAO. Actually, they are getting quite professional. Yeah, so these are their plans for Twitter, for their Twitter marketing services. Yeah, so you really get something. You pay $2,500 a month, and you get every day two Twitter tweets, and you will be mentioned in their weekly newsletter, and you will be mentioned in their community call, and you get some promotion out of it.
Exactly. Like we're just basically doing everything through weird Zapier connections right now, which
Maybe I have
just
to
don't make
mute
sense where
somebody
the
here.
code is
Okay.
available.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wait. I'm gonna mute. Okay. Got it. Yeah. So, like I said, they have a really nice structure. They have a really nice onboarding system in the Discord. So you will go through little quests, and only if you completed the quest, you have watched the video, you will be led to the next one, and then you can decide actually uh, what are your skills, what can you bring into the DAO. Where do you want to participate? Yeah? It's all about participation, um, being an active member, yeah, doing something for the community, doing something for the project, and getting rewarded for that. Yeah? And so you can really work for Bankless DAO and bring in your skills if they fit into some of the things that they're doing. Yeah, they also have some checks always in place. So if you want to join the Writers Guild, you will have to deliver something. Yeah, they will check if you are actually having the skills that they need. So you will have to deliver a proof of writing. So you would even have to submit previous written articles where they're gonna check. Okay, how is your style? Is this something that we can use and that can profit the project, or you gonna write a first article for them as kind of a little advertising for you, and then they're gonna decide to take you into the guild, and from then on you can take on tasks in their DAO and complete those tasks, and you get rewarded for that. Is that really nice, excellent structured, very active Discord, very active community. Look in the links that I've shared on the top. Yeah, so there's also the links to their newsletter, to their podcast, to their all the projects that they are doing. Is really very nice. And if you would ever think about doing a little media company, maybe you're a designer, or you're good in web design or things like this, or you're good in writing, and you want to come together with other people in a community and build such maybe in the beginning just loose structure and loose organization, and see where it can lead you, and if you actually can also earn some money with it. I think that's a great setup what Bankless is delivering there. So it's really worth to look a little bit deeper into the project. What else? Then we did talk a little bit about friends with benefits. It's a bit of a special thing, so I don't want to go deep into it. Friends with benefits is actually a club that is permissioned. So you have to. Not everybody can join it. If you want to join Friends with Benefits, it's like a community of artists, of DJs, of NFT people, of a little bit also some celebrities are there inside. But they are also a very active community worldwide. They organize parties, they organize events, they organize art things. They have a gallery, they have an online gallery, they organize NFT sales. They organize. They also go now into the metaverse and things like this. So it's a very active Web3 community. But to be part of this, you actually have to apply for that. So you really have to make a member application, and of course you also have to buy a good stack of their tokens to be part of that. But it's like a very exclusive club that is all organized around blockchain, around DAO culture, and very active, because they also have some little bit prominent members there, and they do a lot of pretty nice stuff. They also have a very good design crew that makes really nice events and produces really good videos. So a different way of doing DAO. It's a pure social DAO, but it's still structured around a token, and they issue a token, and they govern themselves around their token, and this token is of course also listed, and they got some big investors investing into this project, and so they got very successful. So actually they also made a lot of profit with their little organization, because they created a little bit hype around, and this scarcity of not everybody can join us and not everything is like not everybody knows what's going on there, created a little bit hype around it, which of course was good for their profit. Just a short recap, you will find more about this in the document. And what I also really liked, and I think also Antonio, I got your feedback from there, is Aave Grants DAO. Aave is a very, very quite big and a very well-known DeFi protocol. I think it's a lending protocol in the DeFi space, quite well-known, good market cap. So it's one of the bigger players in the space. And what they did is they found themselves sitting on a huge treasury. Yeah, so they have an ecosystem reserve of 1.2 billion worth US dollars. This was in April 21. So actually, I'm sure it's a moment it's even more. And this is an ecosystem fund, a treasury that is available to fund growth and community initiatives inside the ecosystem. And they had always a treasury management system in place before, which was only circling around proposal things, and then the whole community had to vote. Again, token-based voting always here. But they have not been happy with the way this worked. It was kind of slow. It was not really effective. There was no system of checks and balances in place where they really could follow up where the money was going and if the money was really worth and well spent. Because it was just like anybody could propose, hey, I need 400,000 K for building something, and if you convince enough people, the community voted, yeah, sounds nice. We have 1.5 billion lying around, give those guys 100K, but it seems they have not been really happy with the way. And so a group of community members came together and proposed a change to this whole grant management system. And they proposed to establish a committee which has the power to administer grants on a discretionary basis. The focus will be on disbursing grants funding effectively and quickly to individuals and teams working to improve the Aave ecosystem. And they proposed a committee of 8 members. And one of these members will be a lead, will be a full-time employee of the DAO, and then they have 7 reviewers. The lead will be the organizational backbone of the program, yeah, and ensure that the things move smoothly and effectively. The lead will likely dedicate a significant amount of time to the program. And reviewers will process applications, and they will ensure that the lead is acting in good faith and is effective in the role. And they operate this whole thing out of a multi-sig wallet, which is also something that we have been talking about the week before. And so this means only if 4 of the 7 reviewers sign a transaction to spend some funds from the treasury, these funds will move. And you see the lead itself has not any influence. It has no signing ability in this treasury. Yeah, so this is like the one guy or woman that is full-time employed for it, can only organize the whole grant management. He can prepare proposals, he can prepare projects, and he will have an oversight, and he will be always in a feedback loop with the projects that also receive the grants to make sure that the milestones are reached and things like this. But he can't decide himself which of these projects gets any money. He only can, let's say, support a project, but the reviewers will have to review if this looks like a valid and well worked out proposal, and they are deciding where the money is going. And they have a really good organized structure in this also. They have it all in a Notion page, very, very well organized and laid out exactly all the rules, all the budget, the whole organizational structure of how a grant process works. And so they, first of all, have for 2 quarters, so that's 6 months, they distributed a budget of 2 million out of their big treasury into this multisig wallet of the committee, and then an additional budget of 250k to pay the lead and the reviewers and the lawyers and have like operational costs.
You just
The
disappeared.
250k is used. I disappeared.
Yeah.
My
Also,
internet.
your
Back?
microphone, there's some background noise.
Okay, warte. It better now? Hello? Hello,
Yeah,
hello?
we can hear you now, but there's still some background noise.
Okay, I have some frogs sitting around there. They are really annoying. Is it more like a cable problem, maybe?
Yeah, it's more like a cable from your mic itself, not from the background frogs or something.
Okay. I try. Sometimes it works. Let me see if I adjust the cable a little bit. Is it really bad, or can you live with it? Because I'm not gonna speak any much longer.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Okay.
It sounds
Sorry
like
for
frogs.
that.
Sounds like
Yeah,
frogs.
I have actually frogs sitting here in the kitchen somewhere, so they're really annoying. Yeah, so this is how they do it. They have this budget, and they first of all implemented this system for 6 months, and they want to see how it works. And then after 6 months, the community will have to decide if they are happy with the way this funding system works, or if they want to disobey it and figure out a different system. Yeah, it's just like this is how a lot of DAOs do it. Yeah, you need to be flexible in your approach because you can't 100% always know that everything that you do will work out the next 10 years. So if you give yourself this flexibility of say, okay, let's do 6 months, have a look if this works better than the system that we had before. Is it more effective? Are the funds better spent? Are maybe the projects that receive funding, are they supported more effectively in their work? And can we be sure that the money that is spent is leading to more ecosystem adoption with such a system? And if they're happy with it, they will continue it. And actually, they continued just recently. Yeah, so they have also very well laid out structure. This is the salary, $100 an hour for the lead, and he will work 40 hours a week maximum. And this is like a normal little company, and an employee of the DAO would be organized. They also have very, very well formalized priorities. What should be funded? Yeah, pretty clear that only projects can be funded that fit into one of those 8 requirements. Yeah, either protocol development, yeah, for the core Aave protocol, or of higher layer protocols which use the Aave protocol, applications and interactions of front end and other apps that use the Aave protocol directly. Developer tooling for Aave, yeah, it's pretty important, often forgotten thing, because this is actually stuff that it just mostly costs money, but it doesn't really create a revenue in the beginning. But of course, it will make development easier, so it's a very important investment normally in the protocol. All kind of community initiatives for marketing and education. Also, for if there would be committees or subcommittees or DAOs want to form that serve the Aave's ecosystem, they could also receive fundings out of these 2 millions. Code audits for Aave and for applications, also very important thing. They are pretty expensive if they are done by very good audit firms, and also it's something it just costs money. It's super important, but sometimes if you have a project and the funding is not good, maybe they can really apply for that such a treasury pays the code audit for them. If it's a great application that will make the ecosystem more usable and more secure, why not? Yeah? And events, hackathons, and bounties for bug hunting and things like this. And so they have a clear structure of what this treasury should do. They have a clear structure of who decides in the treasury, and so they can quite quickly and effectively spend funds out of this. Interesting protocol, interesting project. Have a look also here are the links, how they proposed it. There's some nice articles about it. There's the link to their governance forum, and you can have a look how this actually works. Very, very good. I think we are excellently in time. And so let me ask, Biyan, are you here?
Yes, and I hope everyone can hear me.
Yeah.
Perfectly.
Yeah. Okay,
Perfect.
so maybe I will give a little short introduction to Biyan. So wait, I can actually maybe even show you because I have your article here, and then everybody knows who's talking.
Not
Yeah,
you're
so
doxing
Biyan.
me.
So Biyan is actually working for the IOTA Foundation as a lawyer or law consultant. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong. And Biyan is from Germany. Here he is. It's a really small picture of you, Biyan. Maybe better. And he has written. He has worked a long time in the blockchain and DAO industry already, and he has written a really, really good article about the legal structures of decentralized autonomous organizations. And maybe Biyan, just introduce yourself shortly, and then maybe explain a bit of how you see the legal standing of DAOs in the moment. In the world
Yes.
or in legislatives, and which of, I mean, you have the article is really great. It's part of our session document, and you lay it out really excellent what options are out there, and I found it really, really interesting and rewarding.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback. So maybe a short introduction to me. I have been in crypto since like 2015, mid 2015, and 2016 when the first like big DAO launched on Ethereum, the DAO, like the topic DAO really took my interest, and I also like found it really interesting from a legal side. So I dived deeper into like the whole DAO topic, especially like the legal problems that arouse with it. And I also wrote my PhD about the legal qualification of DAOs. When I finished my studying, I wrote my PhD like how a legal framework for DAOs could look and how they should be legally qualified. And since then, basically since like 2018, I've been advising like several DAOs on their setup, how to legally structure it and minimize the risk. And especially like in the last 2 years or 1.5 years, the whole topic like got to another level from interest, like with all the big DeFi protocols, like either launching as a DAO or switching to a DAO structure. I couldn't complain like about the work to get, and I've also been advising like classical legal problems, but my main like token sales, NFTs, and that kind of stuff. But my main focus has always been DAOs. So I'm happy to be here now and give some insights to that. Maybe just like to start off with the idea, because I think all of you got now a really good overview, like what a DAO is, and like from a legal perspective, most people think if they launch a DAO, then they try to avoid like legal problems, or they do not fall under any regulation, which is basically not true. I think most of you guys will be aware of that. So I think the biggest issue that we normally have when people want to set up a DAO like they have to think about their structure, how you want to set up, because like I can say that up front, there's like no perfect way to set up a DAO. And at the moment, in most jurisdictions, especially like in our Western jurisdictions, there's like no also perfect legal entity which could be used for DAO, but there are like several options that you can use when you want to set up a DAO. So I will start like with first talking about the legal problems that come with DAOs and the risks that everyone should be aware of, and then also how to like kind of avoid a little bit these problems and some ideas how a DAO could be structured. So the first and biggest risk that mostly all lawyers are talking about is that in most jurisdictions, DAOs will be seen as some kind of general partnership or joint venture, which means that it is a form or legal form which has as a consequence that everyone who is involved is personally liable with all his like wealth for everything what is doing or what is done in the DAO. And so it even goes that far that if you're buying some kind of DAO token, a governance token from, I don't know, some kind of DeFi protocol, like from a legal perspective, you would be liable for everything what goes wrong with the DAO if it represents that you are part of the DAO. Of course, now to like revise it a little bit, the really like practical risk is not that high because the enforcement of the law, then the DAO needs to be sued, people need to be identified and all that kind of stuff. So it's hard to enforce it, but like theoretically, everyone who just buys a governance token of a DeFi DAO would be personally liable for everything what goes wrong with it. Like, of course, if it would depend how a judge would see that, and there would be some possibilities, but just like from a theoretical legal perspective. And the other big problem is under which and that's why I said the risk is practically not that high, because under which jurisdiction does a DAO fall? If you have a DAO structure which is like really decentralized and is run just on nodes all over the world, then it's really hard to determine the applicable law. Like, for example, normally you look like in international private law, where the corporation sits. For example, if the corporation sits in Germany, then German law is applicable for the corporation, and it will fall under the regulation of the German authorities. But with the DAO, of course, there comes this problem like, how can you determine the jurisdiction which is applicable for that? And why I'm explaining that detail, because that can also be like used when you are setting up the DAO, right? So now just like to come, and if somebody just has a question or anything, you can just like jump in, or also like write it down and ask me later, just like to put that also aside. So the different possibilities now of structuring a DAO. So just to wrap up, the biggest risk that we have is like personal liability. Also, it depends on the jurisdiction. Could be hard to like set up, I don't know, a bank account or get legally recognized and get or sign contracts for the DAO. These could all be problems if you like just launch a DAO without thinking about it. And so, as I also line out in my article, there are like mainly 4 options how to set up a DAO. At the moment, most used option is the first one, which I lay out, is when you don't set up any legal entity at all. You just like make a token sale or token offering, and just everyone can just like exchange the token for the DAO, or you airdrop the token. Like, for example, like ENS did recently, that everyone who has like the Ethereum addresses got the ENS token to govern the DAO. That would be a possibility to set up the DAO. Now, the risk that you have is, which I lined out before, is that theoretically everyone would be legally liable for what is going on with the DAO. But practically, if you do it right, there is the possibility to like use the lax regulation at the moment, because like even in the US, the SEC stated if a protocol is fully decentralized, it's really hard to regulate it. and to enforce law on it. So if you are a fully decentralized DAO, and that's why also a reason why mostly the DeFi protocols try to launch it fully decentralized or anonymously, then there is the theoretical risk, but practically it would be really hard. Like, who are you going to sue if there's like an anonymous dev team, anonymous founders? Like, you can't really sue anyone. So the first idea would be, if you want to set up a DAO without registering any entity, you need to be aware that there is a risk and you are putting yourself out there for the risk. But if you go fully decentralized and there's like no like point where you could say, all right, we can identify this one as the founder of the DAO, here's the control over the DAO, and the DAO is like really community governed, then if you can live with the risk, it is a possibility to run the DAO like that. Also, it depends, what are you going to do with the DAO? So if you are launching a non-profit DAO without any token, of course, your risks are way lower than launching, for example, a decentralized exchange with a governance token. Because always when you get a token involved, there's the risk that the token will be seen as a security. As like if you ask, like, for example, the SEC, the US regulators, they see most governance tokens from DAOs, and they also said that for the DAO in 2016 as a security. So the risk there is.
Did he stop talking or?
Yeah, we lost him. Yeah, we lost him.
Biyan, we lost you.
I think I just got the message that the server was muted. I don't know. But now it works again, as I see. Yeah, I'm back. So just to outline that, if you involve a token, there's also the risk to be seen as some kind of security. So in this regard, it's pretty important how you structure the token. And I can just like advise you, if you're doing that, get some kind of legal advice how you're going to structure the token, to not directly fall under securities law. Because if you fall under securities law, it will be difficult to fulfill the requirements. You would need a prospect, you would not need to KYC anyone who's buying your token and all this kind of stuff. So that's it needs really to be thought of if you're trying to launch like a fully decentralized DAO, and do it like the proper way without getting into too much risk. And it really depends also like on your business case and on your use case. And as just can like to a point to remember, the best thing is, as more as decentralized you are, as safer you get, right? Because if the DAO is like governed by the community, and the community consists of like 10,000 people, like how are you going to enforce law on them and make it liable? So that's just like to keep in mind when you're going that route. And always when I like advise new protocols of like they want to launch a DAO, either they're doing it anonymously or they're doing it with some kind of entity, that's the first thing what I tell them about. Like, you need to think about how do you want to govern your DAO, and how much risk do you want to take, and also like what is your business model, how much risk implies your business model. So depending on that, the other possibility mainly is to trying to setting up the DAO with like some kind of liability wrapper or some kind of legal entity. And there are like many different options, which like there's not the perfect option, but one thing needs always like to be kept in mind. If you are like connecting it to some kind of legal entity, you have on the one side, you can create the security that you can limit the liability of everyone involved. But on the other side, you will always have some kind of centralization. You will always have people who need to be like board members or the representatives of the structure, and you need to register somewhere. So if you want to go that route and say, all right, I want to go like full safe, fully regulated, then you can think of like using some kind of legal entity to create as a liability wrapper around your DAO. And luckily, there are like some options which also give you some freedom to keep some kind of decentralization. For example, as I mentioned here in the article, there are the options of like Vermont and the Delaware LLC. They both are pretty like flexible legal structures, especially like a lot of DAOs are incorporated as a Delaware LLC, for example, Flamingo DAO, Moloch DAO. They use that as a liability wrapper. And what that means is that you set up an LLC in Delaware or Vermont, and where you keep the treasury, and everyone who is part of the DAO is part of this LLC. So whatever happens, there's like limited liability. And it's also then easier to like fulfill tax requirements. And Delaware is very business friendly regarding tax, so you can just like pay the taxes there. But what you need to keep in mind is you would need to have some kind of representatives of the LLC, and also you would theoretically need to, everyone who enters your DAO needs to be registered in that LLC, and everyone who leaves the DAO that needs also be registered. Like you can do that maybe once a year to set that up, but it's hard if you like doing some kind of like decentralized exchange or something. That can be difficult. But there is like, it's an option with somebody. And also I have to say, like, if you want to launch a decentralized exchange, it's really hard to launch a decentralized exchange and be like fully legally compliant, because you would need to do KYC and everything. So that's also need to be kept in mind, like which route do you want to go? Like, do you want to go like the full crypto anon route and fully decentralized, or do you want to like go a regulated route? That's like two different options, and also depends like on the business and on the risks. So another option there is the Wyoming LLC, which basically is kind of similar to the Delaware LLC, but it's especially, it came, they launched it this year, the law. It gives the possibility to actually launch a DAO as a LLC, and you like, it can be easily just done in Wyoming. You just register your DAO, but it also has some requirements. Like you need to have a off switch in your DAO, which can be triggered if there's like something going wrong with the DAO. You also need to have a representative which is registered there. You need to fulfill some kind of like governance fulfillments they give you. So it's always like you have to think about the side, like, do I, if I'm like, are you ready to give up some decentralization to create some kind of safe space, like some kind of liability wrapper for your DAO, for like paying taxes and everything? And it's also a point where you can think of, all right, maybe I don't want to go into the US market, because like, of course, if you launch in US LLC, you fall under US regulations. You will be under the like eyes of the SEC, which like recently shut down a Wyoming DAO, which like was offering some token, which also was linked to like cash flows, which I think is like a terrible idea, because like you can't show easier that it will be seen as a security when you just like link cash flows to your tokens. So that's something to avoid, just to keep that in mind. And I think the next option is, if you like want to avoid the US markets, then you can go to like some kind of foundation structure. And most, like a lot of DeFi protocols, Maker did it, but they recently also resolved it. But there are some other protocols who use it, especially DEXs. They have like offshore foundation, for example, in the Cayman Islands. And why do they do that? For example, the Cayman Islands give a pretty flexible tool to structure a foundation. It's called a foundation company, and it gives you the possibility that the treasury of the DAO is somehow like autonomous, because that's like the idea of a foundation, that the treasury or the money that is in this or the funds that are in this DAOs are some kind of like autonomous, and they don't get like controlled by one person. You just have like board of directors, you can fund projects and stuff like that. So if you like go more for like a funding structure, a grant structure, then the foundation is an idea. But the downside with the foundation is, like, on the upside you have limited liability. You also have like you can register there. Also, Cayman Islands is very tax friendly, as you can imagine. But you will have some kind of like centralization. You will have either to like have your own directors, which you set in there, or you can also, they have like ready services, lawyers in the Cayman Islands who can be your directors. But you give some like centralized power to some people. So of course you could think of like trusted community members, or like the founders doing it, and like trying to always like make the governance as decentralized as possible, and just use the entity to fulfill what the governance structure decides on, and just to have that. But that's something you need to keep in mind, that also like with setting up these legal entities, you will need to have like some good legal advice with like setting it up, and like contact to lawyers there and helping you setting up the whole structure. And I think it always comes down to your like idea and to your business model, to your risk appetite, which route you want to go. And to some, maybe like the idea is up, there's like also some different approaches to have like a decentralized governance system without a legal entity, but have the treasury and some kind of foundation, and have like a contract between the DAO as a joint venture or partnership and the foundation, or set up two like different entities, which one employs all the devs, the other one just like use the treasury. But that's like legal detail that you would need to think of. So that's like some different approaches that there are to setting it up. And also there are like approaches in all different jurisdictions, like in Switzerland, in Germany, and everywhere. But the problem always is, if you want the safety, you will need to give up some decentralization. Like, you need to keep in mind it's at the moment not possible to be like fully decentralized and fully legally safe, as you can imagine. I hope they will change it and try to give like a fully decentralized structure with some like limited liability. But until we come there, maybe it's going to be a long time, or it will be interesting if we ever see it. But also to keep in mind, I haven't been aware until now of a case where a DAO has been sued and the members of DAOs would have been held personally liable. So the like theoretical risk, of course, is there, but if you do it with like a good legal advice and structure it like fully decentralized and do it in a smart way, also if you have a token involved, you can try to minimize the risks that you have with the DAO, especially if you don't control it, right? If it's a fully community-owned project, then everyone who's involved there is like in the same boat, and everyone shares the risk, right? There's like not the founder or the controller anymore who does it. So that's some points that need to be thought of. And I hope I didn't like kill all the ideas that you guys have, but I'm open now, like also for some questions to go in detail. And also if somebody like has some ideas and wants to hit me up, it's also possible. And I just saw a question, I think in the channel, if my PhD is already available. It will be available in German, I think, in a couple of months. But I will try to put out some English papers also, which like summarize the whole research I did in German to like make it worldwide available. And also I can just like advise you to get a lawyer when you're setting up your DAO structure, and think about it and do it in the right way, because there's also like even big protocols who create risks if they like don't think about what they're doing right. Like we just saw a couple of months ago that Uniswap basically delisted some tokens in their front end. They're like stock tokens, and that also made them like attackable, that they are not fully decentralized, right? They say, all right, like our governance fully decentralized. Of course, we have some control about our front end, but it also makes them attackable that they are the ones who control what is going on there, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. And I'm really open like now for questions or anything. If somebody has something, or if I just wants to go with, I'm happy to hear now.
If I may take a number.
Go on. Yes.
But okay, great. Hello, Biyan. Thank you very much for your presentation. Hello from Lima, Peru. I'm in Latin America. Do you have any insights with regards to a DAO set up as a decentralized party, political party, where obviously connationals don't necessarily live in the country, but all over? My concern is basically with the structure and the financial implications of, say, campaign funding or dues that would apply to the party as a party member.
So it depends. Of course, that's the typical lawyer answer, how you structure it, right? If you have a business interest, like an economic interest in that DAO, then there is always the risk. If you have like a fully non-profit DAO and there's like not an economic interest, it's harder to create that liability. So regarding creating like a political party as a DAO, it depends how much like economic interest in that is. If you go like fully just like for a good cause and just like do a DAO governance structure without giving out a token or something, then I think the risk is pretty small. But if you have like a token involved and also like economic interest, then you would need to think about like, okay, what are the risks? How can I do it like in the best way? But that would be my answer to that.
Thank you. Well, as far as I know, political parties have to register in country in order to have their candidates run for office. So they have to be registered as non-profit.
Yes, I think it depends like on your jurisdiction, right? And your you said in Peru, I'm not like really known about the Peru law, but mostly like legal parties are organized as some kind of like association, I would say.
Yeah. And right. Same like in Spain, pretty much. I mean, it's the system is a copy of Europe, Spain.
Yeah. So I think then you already have it. Like when you go as an association, it gives you the benefit that you have limited liability in the association form. Like in most associations, it's like that, and in most jurisdictions. But also, if you want to go like a full DAO, and always an association needs like a board of directors, right? So you would need to like somehow manage that, but that's also possible. That like in Switzerland, they are like running some DAOs as an association with like designated community members as the board directors. So that would be possible if you're ready to give up like some kind of decentralization.
Yep. One more thing before I end. So I read somewhere where a DAO would actually have a two system setup. Say one that would take care of the financial aspect of it, that would be in some country that would offer certain benefits. Because, I mean, obviously there are about 2 million Peruvians living abroad. And they are the ones mainly with the financial pockets to support a political party of this type. And then the other one would be set up as an association, nonprofit in country. So what do you think about this? Or do you know anything about these two setups for the same DEPA, in this case, Decentralized Party?
So that's a really hard question to answer, like in regard to like, it really depends how the both like to the jurisdictions that you are in and like what both associations are going to do. I think that you would need like a really like legal advice tailored to you in that case. Also like regarding tax wise and all that kind of stuff. I think it would be hard to just like kick out an answer right now to how do it best, but as I said, I think the association is a good possibility to have some kind of decentralized organization.
Okay, thank you.
Very nice, Biyan. Yeah, we have had a question collected in our channel. This was from Ben. I don't know, Ben, are you here? Ben Royce? Or maybe I just read it because Ben writes here. He has two questions.
I'm here. I'm here.
Ben. Okay, then go for it.
Okay. Hey, BM, how you doing? We are a social media focused DAO. Well, we plan on being one. We're already a C Corp in Delaware. So my question would be, do we need to recharacterize as an LLC, or can we remain a C Corp and preserve the DAO structure as Delaware has authorized? And I had one more, but go ahead.
So it's really like specific questions. I mean, the LLC structure gives you, I think, a little more like flexibility regarding like the whole setup of the people involved. But I think in your case, it could also be possible to do it like as a corporation, right? As incorporated, but
right, like a C Corp lets you have shares and things like that, right? So I figured, well, that's got to have some overlap with how a DAO is structured, but perhaps not. Maybe it's better. I don't know.
Yeah, the thing is that of course you can't go like public with the LLC. It's harder to like raise funds or investments, but the C Corp, of course, falls under more like regulational structure, especially if you have shares and everything. It has more like requirements, which I think could be difficult to fulfill if you are structuring as a DAO. It depends on your case, but if you want to go public anyways with like classical shares, then the question would be like, I think it's impossible to go like public on a public or be traded as a public stock company and be organized as a DAO, because you would need that centralization, right? Like to fulfill the prospect requirements and all that kind of stuff. So I think if you like fund yourself through the token somehow and connect it to the LLC, it gives you more flexibility regarding like the legal requirements.
Right, I get it, because it's just a pass-through entity. There's no relationship between the shares and the DAO. I understand.
Yeah.
I had one other question, which is, so if you do involve yourself with a token which involves the Howey test and it's a security, then you involve the SEC and all that nonsense, and most people avoid it. I guess my question would be the opposite. Let's say you fully accept that and you're willing to involve the SEC. How much of a heavy lift that is? I assume it's a pretty onerous situation.
Yeah, so of course, I think it's a good question. Like the first time I get it from the different side, but I think you can do it if you are like aware of the consequences, right? If you want to give out in security, you need to register with the SEC, you need to set up a prospect, you need to like, and when you give out the token, it would be seen as a security token. You would need to KYC anyone who buys the token, right? And you just like to assume it would create like for the prospect, register and everything, would create like legal costs, something like 50K, 60, 70K, depending, right?
Ouch.
So it is a harder route to go, but of course it gives you more security, especially if you're operating out of the US, right? Just doing an utility token is always like, especially in the US, risky, because like now with the SEC like going really hard on crypto, like I thought Gensler is like more crypto friendly. He was when he was at the MIT,
Harvard.
but now with like Jared Allen in the back. They're like trying to crack down on crypto. And what I got like from my like colleagues in the US and stuff, and my connection to the SEC, they're like, the next year they really want to like crack down also like on big exchanges and stuff like that. So I would, if you can avoid like launching a token out of the US, I would do it. Like I would try to avoid it. If it's not possible, I would really try to be sure that your token has not any connection to a security, that it doesn't has like any claims, any rights. There's like no money flows regarding the token, and it's just like a coupon, right? So the best thing thinking about a utility token is there are like no rights attached to it, but just like as a coupon to use, right? So that would be my advice, to keep that like in mind if you want to do it out of the US.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So avoid the Howey test because Getzler and all them are going to start cracking down. Got it. Thank you.
Well, he did give Ethereum a pass, right? It seems like the last video that I saw from him was, hey, technically it probably shouldn't have been approved, but cat's out of the bag. It's so pervasive that nothing we can do about it, is essentially what he said. If that's the case, is there a way to maybe use Ethereum or IOTA to help us navigate that?
Yes, so it's a good point. Like I think with Ethereum, they saw it's like now too big to handle it, right? If they would like try to crack down on Ethereum, like it would create so much like trouble and stuff, so that they didn't do it. And if you think about like the protocols, it's hard to see them as a security if it's just like the protocol token, like that it's used on the protocol. And then if it's fully decentralized, and that's also what the SEC stated recently, if you are fully decentralized, it will be hard to be seen as a security, because then you don't have like the security issuer, and you don't have like the people who are responsible or should be registered. So my advice, if you want to use that, like try to really avoid the Howey test, like go it through and really like talk to lawyers and try to create that truly utility token. And the other side would be like do it as decentralized as you could be, because that's also where the SEC is going. Like they're not going to crack down on the fully decentralized networks. So they gave them kind of free pass, because as I explained in the beginning, it's really hard to enforce law on them. Like how are they going to enforce law on Ethereum? They could like try to go for the foundation, but the foundation doesn't even like hold most of the ETH anymore, right? So
yeah.
If you go fully decentralized, you can avoid that kind of like legal scrutiny in some ways.
Okay, so essentially, if there's like if we have a product, a DAO that actually has a yield or something like that, that's actually putting a target on our back, right?
Yes, if you have like some kind of revenue streams attached to your token, it always makes it hard like to get out of the security law, right? Because it looks like dividend, it smells like dividend for the regulators, and they will probably see it as a security.
Yeah.
Oh, a lot of dreams are dying right now. I'm kidding. Yeah.
Biyan, I have maybe one question. So it's in a moment we're always talking about, let's say a DAO launches its own token, which of course has a lot of juicy things. But is there a difference if, let's say, DAOs that only run their whole governance structure on Ethereum? Is it a difference if a DAO uses a token that he creates for himself, or a project that uses its own token purely for full governance, or a project like a lot of these Moloch DAOs and Metacartel and these things, they just use ETH for voting. They hold treasury in ETH, and because actually ETH was not created with the purpose of being a governance token, actually for this DAO, yeah, can this avoid some problems also in regarding to securities interpretation? Because I think Ethereum itself is it passed kind of the Howey test pretty good as far as I remember. And so Ethereum itself is not seen as a security, and so you could use it easier in your structure than creating your own token if you don't need special functions from an own token in your DAO.
Yes, definitely. So that's a really good point. Like it really avoids a lot of legal problems if you use like an existing layer 1 token or layer 0. Like if you use ETH like for your whole governance and stuff like that, you won't be seen as any security issue, right? You didn't go give out a token or stuff like that. It makes it like it reduces the risk significantly, especially because you get out of all that like security risk and financial market law. And then you would just like try, if you have a good governance structure, decentralized or even with an entity, but use a like existing layer 1 or layer 0 token, I think that's a good way to go, like, and to avoid a lot of problems.
So if we did theoretically, IOTA is similar and to Ethereum in that case. If we basically used IOTA, we could maybe achieve something similarly, right?
And how is it? How is it, Biyan? If it's, let's say, even now you have IOTA, but maybe let's say if we create a lot of native assets in the future
Right.
in IOTA, we launch. There will be tokens launched on IOTA, but they are not specific to a certain project. Yeah, maybe let's say we launch. Yeah, we launch. Let's say assembly on top of IOTA. Or we launch Shimmer or whatever, or any other kind of token. It's based on IOTA technology and is not only used in one project, but maybe used in 50, 100 different DAOs and DeFi applications and whatever kind. It's like a general utility token that it's not specific to a single project. Would this also again help because then it's a more generalized usage of the token and not specific for a single purpose and a single governance in a single project?
Yes, of course, because if you use like an existing token for your whole governance process, you didn't like issue a token to create funds, right? You wouldn't be seen as a security issuer. You wouldn't have like to like have the fear of getting seen for illegal like security issuing, what a lot of ICOs had in 2017, which got like cracked down by the SEC, and even now are still like have to pay back their funds and everything. So I think it's, if you can somehow avoid to like create your own token and give it out for like funding and everything, and use existing layers like IOTA or the assembly token or any other token like on IOTA or any other layer, it makes it legally safer for sure. Of course, it's not legal advice, and there's always a risk, like, and you would always need like to think about it in every each case, but it definitely is the better way to go, in my opinion.
So then you just say, basically, I use the IOTA token as a method of accounting on steroids, basically.
Yeah, for example, because if the big problem is if you give out your own token, you need to structure your own token right. And you also giving it out maybe for people, especially if you're giving it out against Ether or some other, then you create a risk that it can be seen as security. But if you already like just launch a protocol and use, for example, IOTA to govern it, and people who are like blocking or staking IOTA can govern the protocol, it really helps avoiding security law, because you don't want to fall under it.
So did we just describe another real use case for IOTA token for all the assembly and Shimmer ecosystem?
Did somebody follow my lead here? Yes.
Yes. I was actually thinking that this is actually what I've been pondering for the last couple of days. It's threading the needle, right?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting and valuable thing to think about. Yeah, if you absolutely really always need an own token just launched for your little small project, that would be great, of course, because you can absolutely control and you can limit and you can distribute it how you want. But as soon as and you would directly fall under this security problematic, will be kind of a lot of headache, I think, for some and maybe not worth always to do it. Yeah. But then, like Biyan said, depending on how you set up everything, yeah. Avoid US, stay totally decentralized, stay anonymous as far as possible. Yeah.
So, like for a lot of us, being anonymous is impossible. So, right. So, I'm US based, so I'm trying to figure that one out, right? And I'm also not trying to dodge anything, right? So if we have to bite the bullet on being a security, then we have to bite the bullet. Obviously, I would try to avoid that if possible, and but do it in a totally legal way. Is there a way for a U.S. citizen to is the Cayman approach? Switzerland? Are there ways to help U.S.-based endeavors rather than us trying to go the Delaware route? And I mean, is there an advantage to it?
Yeah, it's a good point. So if you, I understand, like it's difficult for the most like to go the full crypto route. So the other possibility is you either like go try to do it out of the US and try like with a good legal advice to either, if you're launching a token, structure the token as a utility token without like claims to it, or you could like try to reduce even the risk and issue the token, for example, out of a Cayman Island foundation, what a lot of protocols did and do, that you like set up an offshore entity, issue the token and the funds from the offshore entity. But of course, the thing is that you would need to keep in mind now, as you're a US citizen, it could be difficult, like if you pay out something, or depending on your connection, right, to the project, then to your own taxes, it could be difficult. And also, as I heard, like the US is trying go a little bit after these offshore jurisdictions for like tax purposes. So if you're thinking about a long-term project, I think I would go that route, to go like Wyoming LLC or Delaware LLC with a good like US lawyer who helps you structure the token and do it. And some projects are doing it like successfully out of Delaware, like Molo, Flamingo, and these kind of protocols. They try to do it, but the biggest issue in the US, I see, it's not as much the DAO structure than securities law.
Yeah.
So that would be the thing to keep in mind there.
Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta have to pay the piper. So I guess,
Yeah. I mean, if you think about like most of the airdrops even avoid like airdropping token to the US, right? Like DIDEX and these kind of like protocols, they didn't airdrop to anyone in the US. So that shows a lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You just Greg, just move, yeah. Europe is nice.
Switzerland's lovely.
Yeah, cool.
Like I said before, we just need to buy an oil platform and put it there, and then have a bank account in the Cayman Island, and we dodge everything.
I thought that was the Cayman
That's
Islands.
the way.
Yeah.
Better even really get an offshore platform, offshore, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that,
cool.
like in the B2B craze, most of you are way too young to remember the days when B2B marketplaces were the big thing, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
And one time I was in Manhattan, and, in this prime billboard location on this big-ass building, there was this sign from IBM, I2, and Ariba.
I2,
that had
oh
this
my God, there's a name.
oil rig in this rough sea, and said, what a great place to build a B2B marketplace. So you've come
Sealand.
full circle.
I'll move to Sealand.
Cool.
Yeah, you know, for U.S.
so-
citizens, it just seems like we're if they want to come after us, they're going to find us. It doesn't matter where we go, it seems so.
Yeah, I would try to go if you are operating out of the US and have your own token and stuff. I would try to go as secure as possible, right, to avoid any backlash. Because I had a lot of just recently, I had contact to a project who had to pay their whole 200 million fund from an ICO because it was seen as a security. So I think they're better safe to be sorry then, right?
Yeah, right.
Let me see. We have some questions in the channel here, I see. Maybe we can here's something from Cartman. So if you keep track about the percent of shares each participant contributed, and if someone leaves, you could pay him out according to that percentage. Okay, this is something different. So how is it with the payment of the individual DAO participant? Usually, if you are self-employed, you need invoices for the tax office. Or if you are employed, you need a contract and you have to pay social security and taxes. So how is this usually handled in a DAO where people, let's say, people work for the DAO or get paid by the DAO out of the treasury? If a DAO is without a legal setup, then of course they're not going to take care of it. But if you kind of run as a company registered as Delaware LLC and things, you of course I think would need to issue proper receipts and pay taxes and things like this.
Yeah. So it's a good question because a lot of DAOs either they set up an entity, if they employ people or have to pay third parties or have to issue invoices, they set up an entity just for that in some business friendly jurisdiction and then the DAO itself has a contract with this entity, and the entity does things for the DAO and gets paid from the treasury, and with this money it pays the employees and writes invoices and stuff like that. They set up an subsidiary of the DAO, so to say, who is a registered legal entity who can provide any who can sign contracts and issue that kind of stuff. That's often used.
Cool.
Hi, Biyan and all. I have a separate question on voting, actually. I'm not sure if it fits your research expertise, but I'm curious for DAOs that do have a legal wrapper as an LLC or as a foundation, whatever. Assuming they don't get the security problems, they successfully progress through and they are now doing token votings, as a lot of DAOs do. Do these votes actually recognized in a legal standpoint as a company decision or something similar for DAOs that are registered as legal entities?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a pretty good question. It depends how they are legally registered. Of course, you can say, for example, if you have some kind of LLC or foundation, that your bound of directors or your board of directors is bounded by community decisions, and you say, we do a community vote and we legally write a contract or write it in the association paper or whatever, that we are bound by the community decisions. You could make it legally binding. That would be a possibility. And mostly how they do it, the DeFi protocols, I think they don't create a legal binding, but they just go with it or just go with the decisions of the community, right? If on OneInch or Uniswap the governance participants decide we're going to raise the fees, then they will raise the fees, right? So you can create it also legally binding, but I think in most cases they just like feel in some kind of way like ethically binded to it.
But also you have the option to have it kind of algorithmically executed, yeah. So
Of course,
like
yeah.
like Maker and this, I think MakerDAO has everything. Vote actually includes the smart contract code that will be deployed when the vote is decided. So you're really completely out of. So then this, I mean, this is legally. I don't know how it will be seen, but this is a very binding decision because there's actually no enforcing person involved anymore. Then, yeah.
Of course, right. If you like have the good smart contract infrastructure and you connect it to the vote, then you would basically you could put it like in the agreement of everyone who like takes part in the DAO that they are bounded by the program smart contracts, and then it would be legally binding for the for everything which is decided on and which goes through the smart
Would
contract.
it work? Would it work? Could you do that on a kind of like before they can vote, right? Make them just agree to that before they have the opportunity to vote. Does that suffice?
Yeah, or you could also like just write it in the white paper and say everyone, like in some kind of terms of the DAO, everyone who participates
In your manifesto, perhaps.
Yeah,
you put it into
Correct. What we yesterday talked about. Metacartel is doing this. So in Metacartel, you have to deposit tokens into a smart contract. It's like your buy-in, and by this you are actually executing code. This code is it actually that you are agreeing to their manifesto, and it's kind of it's locked in the blockchain actually that you with your address actually because you're only registered or member of the DAO with your Ethereum address. You are, as soon as you deposit the tokens on this address, you become a member and you automatically become a member of this Metacartel Ventures thing, and you obey to their execution rules automatically.
Yeah, makes sense.
Thank you for the insight. I do have a follow-up question now that you have raised the Metacartel's case. So they are registered as a Wyoming LLC, if I recall correctly, or an LLC at least. So for the members that are joining as a Metacartel member, are they legally required to be, for example, KYC'd or registered in the under the US registration or something like that?
So I think Metacartel is registered as an LLC in Delaware. They would, if you don't do like a financial service, right, you won't need any KYC. Just like, but what they would actually do, and I don't know if they do it like that because it's also, I think it's not that much legally looked at, but they would need to keep track who's joining and who leaves, who's joining, who leaves, right? That is required by Delaware law, but I think that's not like the biggest issue. But if you don't like provide any financial services, you can like avoid having to do KYC, right?
So they are keeping track of the addresses
because
that are joining and leaving, I assume.
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Yeah. And they're only. I mean, they don't do any service. They're only investing actually. Yeah. So they are seed fund investors. So maybe this is a little bit laxer seen. Otherwise, like not like Bankless DAO that are really offering services, and you even can pay them in dollars. So I'm sure they have some legal wrapping around that, because then you really offer something against paying in tokens. You will probably need a more sharp legal structure for this.
So if something's based always on IOTA, I have my own token. My DAO issues a token, but it's backed to IOTA, right? And the process is that people earn interest, but it's anytime they try to realize that interest and actually turn it into real money, it's always converted into IOTA. Does that do anything for us? Protect us in any way?
Difficult to say, because if you have like revenue streams, of course, if they are in a token, it's not exactly like if they would be like in fiat money, right, or in some kind of like stable coin. But it's also like it's always difficult to create, like to bound your token to a claim, right? Because then it always goes a little bit into that security direction. I think it makes it a little better, but you would also like really need to look into the case, how you structure the token, and also like how you market the token, right? That's also really important. Like, do people buy or get the token with like an investment idea behind it, or like is it more like airdropping the token for people using it? That would be make it like, it depends. You could like try to legally structure it more like airdropping to the holders to make it not look like that. So that would be
we're actually doing something. Yeah, we're doing something that's kind of like even more. That's very similar to that. We could possibly thread the needle, but we may be introducing something, a new concept that maybe even one level different than all of this. So this is crazy. So yeah, I would love to run it by you. Yeah. So Holger, you know where I'm going, right? You kind of, this is, it's almost akin to what Antonio was talking about, but it's just a kind of a layer even further extracted. So.
One question I see here: how soon in the DAO formation process are the legal liability risks starting? So let's say if you just come together and you develop ideas and you maybe create a manifesto and you kind of form yourself as a loose group, but you're not having, let's say, does it start as soon as you have a treasury, like let's say a shared treasury, or as soon as you issue a token, or already as soon as you start forming yourself in a Discord server and starting to create a DAO?
That's actually a good point. It basically starts as soon as you act economically to the outside. Then it will be seen as some kind of partnership, right? Because the definition of a joint venture partnership would be that people get together with an economic interest and they do something together, like act somewhere outside their inside structure. Like as soon maybe as you sell your token, then it will start. As soon as you maybe like act on behalf of the DAO to the outside. That would be the proper definition.
Yeah. And let's say as soon as 15 people come together and put tokens together in a multisig, but as long as this multisig is not acting, it's just the money is sitting in the multisig and not doing anything, that would not be seen as acting with the outside world, because it stays inside the circle.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly. That is exactly what I was hoping to hear. So until you basically you have a multi-sig, but if it's empty or nothing comes in or out of that ever, right? It's the first time that something
I think
basically
the first time something goes out.
Goes out, right? Then that would be the launch point, wouldn't it?
Yes, exactly. So as long as you're just doing it like from the inside and just like not acting as an like party or like act to the like economic market as a party, then there wouldn't be a risk if you just like use a multi-sig, like pool your funds.
Right. So if, for example, if I wanted to attach this to a wallet at a bank to do a test, that'd still be safe?
Yes, I think so. And also you have to think, of course, like I would need to like really look into the case and track it, but also you have to think the risk arouses as soon as you like make a contract with someone and someone could get interest of suing you, right? if you're just like doing stuff which doesn't involve like a legal risk of somebody like suing you or something like this, then you just like basically can try a lot of things. That's maybe a thing to keep in mind.
All right.
Cool.
Perfect.
Excellent. Let's see. Do we have some other questions out of the group, or
if possible?
What?
We didn't hear all that question. We just heard the end.
No, I was just gonna say. So I heard you say that one time where like there hasn't been yet someone necessarily in America that has been held accountable, and I think like this kind of, we saw this with the taxes, like before the IRS actually made very clear and distinct legal language. If someone got audited, they necessarily didn't get hammered because the person, especially if the person was like, well, man, this was very ambiguous wording that the IRS had, so I did my best. I paid this type of taxes and this because of that. Versus I'm just trying to scam the system. So those people, given that, hey, there is ambiguity there, they were kind of had some leniency there, and maybe this is where their DAO is, where they're like, okay, yes, we want to say that we can get you for liability, but it's kind of unclear. So if you're kind of doing your best, we won't go after you, but we will maybe shut you down, kind of what we're seeing in Wyoming. So if someone is trying their best, I mean, do you see that, other than maybe getting shut down, if you are trying, like that holds a lot of clout? And that one question. Then the second question would be, if someone's set up in a safe country, let's just say, for example, Switzerland, and the Americas or Britain or Hong Kong, someone outside the European Union sets up legality that really is not DAO conducive, but again, you're kind of in this safe country. How does that impede your ecosystem that is in one of those countries? Or could impede it?
Yeah, good question. So regarding your first question, it's really hard like to give an answer of it, because it's like, as you see it already, there like comes so much like also political interest into the decisions, right? So it depends like how the standing of DAOs will be, and it always comes down like to the judge who will be deciding in that case, or the prosecutor from the SEC or someone like that. So of course I can see that, and that's like my experience with most like regulatory authorities. If you like really try to comply with law and do your best, and they see, all right, you're not doing like basically something illegal and trying like to do money laundering or something like that, then most of them are open to talk, right? And you can just like, maybe they will have you shut it down, or maybe they will have you fulfill the requirements, but it's really hard to give their like a general answer, right? To like, it depends really on each and individual case, and also like what kind of authority is standing against you, right?
But I think it's also, if I could say that he used the comparison to like personal taxes, right? And say, look, I tried my best and so on, right? I would think that once you're talking about an organization, like a corporation, a business of sorts, yeah, that there is a different level of legal scrutiny implied, yeah? And that also there's a higher expectation that you comply with the law, yeah? Compared to an individual taxpayer, yeah?
Yeah, of course. Like, it's hard to compare it with like personal tax scrutiny or against it. So I personally, as I'm a lawyer, I wouldn't rely on that you get to like regulatory authority who's not gonna like enforce law on you. So it's, of course, I also don't, but on the other side, I don't see them like, if you try to do everything right, and at the moment it's just like difficult legally to do everything right, they're not going to put you directly in prison and give you like a really big fee for it, right? So we also saw that with the ICOs. Maybe that's a good comparison to say, like, projects who like marketed really scammy and marketed as investment, like they got really cracked down hard, but projects who like tried to do it right and just like also fall under it, they maybe had just like to pay the funds back and like do everything, but people did not got like prosecuted with penalty laws, so to say. And also, like, now to your second question, right, regarding it, I think that's really hard to say, like, what the impact, like, from other jurisdiction to each other is. Of course, when I understood the question right, it was like when in some jurisdiction they got like DAO unfriendly, to like formulate it easily. I think the best thing you could do is then just like try to avoid people from that jurisdiction, right? For example, if I advise some kind of like protocol to like or some kind of entity to which want to launch a DAO or everything, I say if you can avoid the US, avoid it, right? So that would be my idea behind it. I hope that answers that.
So let's say we have a Switzerland DAO and copacetic, great in the European Union. We're funding projects left and right. They're happy with the DAO. They support innovation. Then we get a team from New York City, America, and they put a proposal in that wants to get funded. That funding, let's say, is in the form of IOTAs per se. So the DAO agrees, they fund it, and they send these guys IOTAs. What can anything be tied back or consequences on that Swiss DAO through any like world trade laws, or does the US have any jurisdiction over then the DAO's fund in Switzerland, or would it really the only way that if it did cause a complication, it would be the US side for that team or company, that project in US?
Yes. So basically, and that it also, right, of course, depends like on the exact case, but if you just like the US, like the SEC and the regulators always need to like prove that it falls under their authority, right? And if you're like a Swiss association and just like fund a project from New York, then the New York project would have like the legal problems because they are operating out of the US and they would fall under US regulations. But if you're just like funding it, it depends. Like it depends how you fund it, for what fund it, but mostly it would you would just like have to check with Swiss regulators, not US regulators. Like it also like it depends on the case, of course, but that would be like the general answer to it.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I mean, part of me says, "Hey, why don't I just do it in Switzerland?" You know, I know you need to have a legal requirement for somebody of standing needs to be there and live there. That's easy to do. You know, versus doing Delaware. I mean, I'm just wondering where am I going to save effort? Where's going to be? Is Delaware in that case a better deal or not? I'm not really sure. It's like flip a coin, right?
Yeah, so if you think about it, also the SEC is pretty like they're doing what they want in that regard. Like it's always the case if they can prove that it falls under their authority. So if you're doing it out of Switzerland but you're targeting the US market, they will say it falls under US regulations, right? If you somehow do like marketing in the US or this kind of stuff. And for some ICOs, they'd even say, all right, you did your ICO on Ethereum. If there are Ethereum nodes running in the US, the SEC can enforce law on it. So the SEC is pretty creative in that regard. Like if they really want to go after someone, they will go for it, right? But it's also like, of course, they can't like go after every project. Also depends like on your cloud, on your project, right? And the risk and all that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't bet on the SEC not like being able to prove that it falls under their authority.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you advise kind of clients and you say, stay out of the US, what then in your mind, and everyone's going to have a bit difference because nothing's really black and white as of yet. So what is you personally, do you think is the best country, the best entity set up? And then are there any restrictions to that? Again, funding projects in any certain specific regions or countries?
That's a difficult question. As I explained in the beginning, I think it's really, there's like no one fits all solution or one best solution. Like if you're going if you're doing it out of the US, I mostly advise to create some kind of legal entity, to create like this liability wrapper, to like maybe pay taxes somewhere, but also there are teams who say, all right, we are doing it like as an anonymous dev team, and we are just like have people all over the world working. And then I advise like, okay, try your token, structure your token like that it's not be directly seen as a security, go fully decentralized, that it will be hard for the SEC to prove that it falls under their jurisdiction. So it really depends on your like certain project and what are your goals with the project, right? And what are exact like governance structures and all the different structures where you want to pay taxes, how much revenue to create, and all this kind of stuff. It's really hard to give there like a general answer.
Yeah, and I probably should have explained. You're absolutely right. And let's maybe take the IOTA Foundation's DAO and this new assembly token DAO. So both of these DAOs are going to be essentially funded by supply minted. No person is buying these tokens and buying a share necessarily. At least the main bank fundings that's going to fund developers out of this DAO and whatever. The community is going to let's just say everyone has some type of vote, whether they're delegates or not or whatever, whether they have a lot more than the other. Regardless, at least everyone that's an IOTA holder, everyone that is an assembly token holder will have an option to vote and say, you know, hey, we see this project. We want to fund it from these tokens that were minted. These tokens went into this organizational DAO by everyone agreeing to it in a vote in a community. And then the node owners, all the node owners across the world simply said, take these IOTAs and put it here. And then the goal would be that essentially this DAO, if it chose to and said, hey, the market's doing really great now, let's sell 10% of these for USDT or, you know, euros and put it in a Euro bank. And we'd like to be able to fund projects basically throughout the world, maybe primarily in Europe. It doesn't have to be primarily in America, or, you know, it might not be perfect throughout the world, but it certainly is not going to be primarily America. And that kind of hopefully fine tunes what pros and cons in your experience, if that makes sense. And is there any other things that would help kind of fine tune that?
Yeah, so I think it will be seen like throughout the process, right, how it evolves, and I think everyone involved will make sure that it will go like the right route and it will like develop in a good way. So I think if you do it right, it would be possible, right, to fund different projects, to even like, because if you're like not acting with the like economic interest in it and profit, it eases a lot of regulations which come with it, and it minimizes like a lot of risk which come with it. So I think in that direction it would be possible to do it like right and fund different projects all over the world with the token treasury, right? And I think it will also be like work on that. It will have a good structure and it will like really go the right way as I expect it to be.
Cool.
Okay, thanks.
Maybe Biyan, maybe we take one more question from the chat, because we already have 2 hours here now.
I think so too.
Yeah, the European Union wants to regulate all crypto wallets. Isn't that a problem for fully decentralized DAOs? And one is forced to have a legal basis because there's no way to remain anonymous in the EU if they set up their total regulation of. But I think this crypto wallet regulation is only for custodial wallets, or is it also?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you just like everyone is involved in the DAO with it, like his own wallet, which he own controls, you won't fall under the regulation like for wallets. It's basically regulation for custodians, if like for exchanges and like other institutions which hold on control the private keys.
So service providers or things like but they hold the code, they hold the like you said, exchanges, they hold the tokens on behalf of you they hold the private keys. Yeah.
Exactly.
Would this also count for multisig wallets?
Final. I'm sorry. Let me just jump in here because when we had Coordinate with us some evenings ago, they are flipping the thing. So it's not like they have a vault.
Oh, I wanted to hear that. Antonio, you disappeared.
Disappearing. Hello? No, Antonio is the one with the internet struggle.
Yeah, exactly.
Just wanted to say, no FIDO internet outage today, so
No?
Antonio has to do the job.
Antonio, sadly we can't. Maybe post it in the chat what you wanted to say, because you're gone. He's gone.
So if we have a gap here, I would like to remind all of you that we have the voting plugin already is currently in test with the Hornet team, and we've set up some events on the Comnet. So if you want to give it a try, take a look in the Comnet channel.
Yes, it's very good. Werner Zimmer is always enforcing into the Comnet, which is great. You should all join, guys. If set up a DAO, use Swarm, it's pretty easy. Set up a DAO, set up a node. I'm confused already.
Yeah, the only issue is I don't think it works with Swarm. Don't know if
okay.
the Hornet team has done because Swarm uses apt while I build directly from develop.
Okay.
And I am currently unsure if the Hornet team has released a release candidate, because that would work.
Hey, while you're figuring that one out, I would really like to hear what Antonio's question was, I'm assuming we can get that posted. Could we maybe rely on? Could we hopefully get a response, written response?
Sure. Antonio, I'm
Cool.
sure he can just post it in the chat, and Biyan can answer it later on.
Yeah, Biyan, I would really appreciate that, because I think I know where he's going, and that's it's very similar to what I'm trying to do.
So. Yeah, I will answer that in the chat then.
Appreciate it very much.
So I would say, first of all, Biyan, absolutely thank you very much for your time here, for joining us and being available for the community and sharing your knowledge. I think it was absolutely great to hear all those insights and to hear your opinion of somebody that has done this for a couple of years and led projects already through those process. I think we kind of all learned a lot. I personally, it's not that I'm more scared than before. Actually, you some things have cleared, and because if you only read the papers and I read all these MIT law reports and the things, then they really scare you much more than the things that you have said today. So that's pretty cool, actually.
That's good.
Yeah. And just want to say thank you on behalf of the community that you really shared your time with us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
It was
Thank you
excellent.
very much, mate.
Very much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Can't wait till you stand up your own oil rig, that IOTA-based oil rig out there, so that we can all.
Yeah. So, Antonio just wrote his he's just sending his question. He said his computer is dead. So he says Coordinate is setting up a vault and people can withdraw money from that pool instead of a DAO distributing the money to the people. So they requested from a smart contract, actually, I think. How does that fall under this condition? In the sense of that the DAO agrees in what proposal to accept, but they do not distribute the money themselves. So actually, yeah, I think I know what he means. So actually, I think you will maybe only issue a receipt with the right to withdraw tokens from a vault contract. So it's not an active distribution. It's more the users actively pull the money out of the vault instead of in the organization sending the money actively out, Biyan.
Yeah, I see that it's a good idea. Also, it's like a smart move. It really depends then on the case. What are you doing it for? And it depends on the regulation you fall under, because like some regulations could also be seen like as some kind of like indirect distribution, because you give the access to it. Like the bank gives you access with the card, right, to funds. So it depends on the jurisdiction. You could try to avoid like some regulation with it. It really depends, but it could be an idea for some structures to use it.
Cool.
So
That's
it's
good.
in that way a reward system in that sense, right? In some cases could be may avoid it.
Some legislatures, they always see it's like, who is the active actor there? Yeah. So is it really the organization actively distributing funds, or is the organization just making funds available, but you're not? I mean, you also don't need to take it out of the vault if you like. Something maybe they think about something like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, all the most important thing that we all learned here today. Whatever you try to do, you really have to find a proper lawyer to give you a proper run through your idea with somebody that can really specifically give you advice to where the country you are in, and or to where the country you may be planning to do something, and really it really depends on your specific setup, what you should consider to do, and which level of decentralization and which level of risk you are you would be able to take for yourself. Cool. So we will let's say finish this here for after 2 hours. A little outlook of actually what we plan for the next week for our DAO Pioneers. So we will continue, if you like, to meet daily. I'm not gonna prepare a lot of content anymore, because I think what we can start to focus next week is really to transition this whole content that we all have learned, hopefully over the last couple of weeks, into some ideas for practical output. I mean, we have already some great ideas coming out of the group with the Ideaton, with the manifestos. Maybe we can start being a bit creative, maybe forming small idea groups, and maybe also can think about, first of all, what would be good structures, or maybe also good tools that we could use to structurize a process to come out of this DAO Pioneer learning circle thing into a more, okay, guys, let's really think about how could it work to set up an organization. Where do we start? What do we need to think about? What questions do we need to answer? From defining a constitution over defining a governance structure, in who do we want to integrate, let in, let out, how should the DAO vote, all the things we can really maybe talk a bit through, and kind of finish our course next week with an outlook into the future, and in which cool ideas some member groups maybe are coming up with. Maybe also we can look out which tools would we really need and would we love to love to use or love to have in IOTA. Maybe we already have something that will fit for some people to start getting creative with DAOs. And so this would be a little bit a plan for the next week. And we would finalize our course next week, next Friday, with the last meeting, and say goodbye to this first great little experiment regarding DAOs in IOTA. And I'm absolutely sure it's not going to be the last one.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yes. So from my side and from Antonio's side also, now his computer is dead in the moment. Really say thank you again for all of you showing up here today, for staying interested in a 2-hour talk. Again, thank you, Biyan. It was really, really great to have you here. And have a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Read through the assembly announcements that will follow and wrap your head around all the cool things that will happen in IOTA. And have a good weekend. Enjoy it with your family. And we'll see you on Monday for the Americans and Tuesday for the European session for more talks about DAOs. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks
Wonderful.
a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a
It was
lot.
Pleasure.
Cool, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.